All right. Yep. Got us on stream. I see the meter. We're good. Welcome to episode 269. Nice. Of the Center Ring Esports podcast. And this is the best episode ever, as we have special guest Craig Skitmus on the line. I'll ask him here at the start of the show if I pronounced that correctly, because I never truly know. But we'll have him on talking some CSGO, more drama. Hey, did you know more drama in CSGO? That never fails. We have some COD roster moves, updates, and is there a place for indie games in esports? And of course, we'll have e-news at the end of the show. But before we get to any of that, let me tell you about the show sponsor, Alt Esports. If you don't know who they are, get to know who they are, because they are the #1 esports apparel company. AltEsports.com is where you can check them out. Also on Twitter, @Ultimate. They actually just dropped the official 90s collection for the Overwatch League. And as the kids say, fire. They are currently sold out, but I promise you they will probably release a second wave of them. They are legit. They have stuff for the leagues, but also for each one of your favorite teams there, so you can check that out, altesports.com. You can also pick yourself up a 101 Burglar hoodie. That's brought to you by your very own Center Ring. So go check that out. The temperatures are dropping, so it's a perfect time to get a hoodie. I think next week here in Dallas, it's supposed to be like 80. That's like winter, basically. So get on it. Get on it. altesports.com. Tell them the Center Ring sent you.
It's DDK, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Yes, this is episode 269, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, September 6, 2020. The time, 8:46 p.m. That's right. Even with a guest, we don't start on time, because we control the dial here, Craig.
Curious, when you said we're going to be video, I didn't know that you weren't that we weren't going to see our faces.
No, we do. Now
we do see our faces?
The stream will catch up. I don't do we really just do video for us, and then we don't let the listeners see it. That's really.
Okay.
No.
Sounds good.
We just do that cold intro with no, and then it's like, boom, the show starts, and here's our face.
Just I wasn't quite sure.
No.
There we are. I see it now.
See?
Nice.
Now you got it. Now you see the wonderful layout.
Yeah, I was over here looking all, getting my setup all ready to go, trying to look pretty for you guys. And
it's like, why didn't they say anything when I was getting all this set up?
I just set this up today.
That's right. Yeah.
Went
to Best Buy. Went to Best Buy. Got a few extra lights. It was good.
Gotta look good. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and follow us on Twitter if you're not doing so already, @TheCenterRing, and join our Discord. That will get you a part of the conversation and everything else that you need to do for social media and all that fun stuff. My name is Tim. Hello. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. Alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Based on Craig's face during the intro, you butchered his last name.
Oh yeah, it was.
Listen.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, it was like going to the meat market.
Listen,
just slicing and dicing, but it's close. It's close enough.
I've known Craig loosely now for probably maybe 4 years. I think is when I first met you at the ticket, 3 or 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah. Well, what you don't know is my last name's actually just pronounced. It looks weird, but it's actually just pronounced Johnson.
It's Scandinavian.
Yeah. Schistomus is fine. That's good.
Schistomus. All right.
Yes.
See, I've never been in a situation where I ever had to care if I said it wrong.
Well, and that's why I just go by Craig Skits, because Skits is easier than Schistomus.
And that's obviously the easiest way. So you can find our guest on the show today, Craig, which is also much easier to say, on Twitter, Craig Skits with a Z.
Yeah.
And let's give our listeners some background here, Craig. So you are formerly Screw Attack Gaming, most formerly of Game Attack, and now you you decided to come into our world, the podcast world. The nerve that you think you can just walk in here and do this.
Well, so actually, I would like to spin that around 180 degrees and look at you and say, it's the nerve you had, because I actually have been podcasting since 2006, sir. So this is just the first time I've done a podcast on my own. So with that,
Touché.
you, my friend, stepped
Touché.
into my zone.
Touche.
Not very often
Yeah.
we have guests on that try to one-up us on our setup behind us, but you have a lovely setup. You can tell which one's
thanks.
the professional and which one is just two gamer dads who convince our wives to let us do this, but really could stop us doing the podcast at any time.
Well, I'll tell you, well, it's a pleasure to be with two other dads. It's rare to actually do a podcast with other dads that appreciate video games. Let alone, I mean, you guys are like the hardcore too. You guys are in the esports stuff, which is awesome. I mean, you have the official esports podcast of esports.
We like to call
That's great.
ourselves that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think we are the official podcast of esports. We're the voice. We we're the pulse of esports.
Yeah.
So
The pulse.
it is funny though, because, and I'll admit, Craig, when we met 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, I always thought, man, this guy's old. He's got like kids and
Right.
he plays video games. It's like, this guy is old. And then fast forward to now, my kid, I now have a kid, and he turns 1 tomorrow. I had his birthday party today. By the way, for those who don't know, a 1-year-old birthday party, a lot more exhausting than what it sounds. Like,
Well, look, what you're going to do, and let me tell you, as the seasoned veteran here, right? What's going to happen is you're going to get done with that party and be like, that was a huge fucking waste of time, right? because what I could have done, instead of doing all this stuff, I saw you're making like cupcakes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
What you could have done, and like, let's be real, all that stuff, it's just for you and your wife.
100%.
That's the reality of it. Like, what you could do is, instead of wrapping up some nice gift for your kid, or have people bring whatever, right? Wipes or diapers or whatever it is, you could, I guess that's more baby shower, but you could just give them a nice piece of wrapping paper, and they'll love it.
That's it.
That's all you need. You don't need the gift. Just give them the wrapping paper. Like, they don't care about the cake and the whole cake mash thing that like everybody loves to do. Like, that stuff you see online, that's the exception. The reality is that the kid will kind of look at it and not really know what to do with it, and then you kind of put his hand in it, expecting him to do something, right?
Now,
Then you put the icing on the kid's face. Get a picture quick, and then you are the one to getting all it off, and that's the reality. It's all staged. It's all fake.
Now, I will say, my kid did smash the smash cake. He stuck his face right in it, so that was a success. But
so you were the exception.
Yeah, we were the
talking
exception.
about.
Congratulations.
We were the
That's
exception.
nice.
Thank you. My whole point to saying this, though,
Mhm.
is you went from being like an old boomer gamer to me.
Yeah.
And in a matter of having one child, I feel like I've caught up. Like, now I'm like, Craig is so cool. He's got like kids and he plays games still. Like, what a cool guy.
Nice. Well, it's funny because, like, it happens. You get older, you grow up, life happens, right? And the reality is that most of the time people, they grow out of gaming, right? And for me, games for me are like more of a hobby now than anything else, right? And they'll eventually become that way for you, because while you love games and stuff, you'll be more interested in becoming being an awesome dad. And when your kid starts walking around, you want to do stuff with them, and like the Dallas Fuel won't be nearly as important as they are now. You know what I mean? And that's like just the reality of life. That's why the demo is younger, So it's while you listen. But with that said, I know that this podcast right now will always be perpetually the official esports podcast of esports.
100%. And that's one of the reasons why it's a beauty with esports, right? Because we've already felt that. Like, Anuj just had his first kid in June. And already,
awesome.
like, we went from, like, still thinking that we could be pro if we really wanted to
Mhm.
now it's like, it's almost turned into, like, traditional sports watching. where this, like, watching esports is sometimes the only time I get with video games in a week because I don't have time to play as much. And so it's like, it's much easier to watch the pros play. And, you know, obviously we talk about it here. So that's what we do. But it's just crazy how that switch is flipped.
For me, it was to keep that competitive drive, honestly, because we went from like playing a bunch of sports, right? Tim and I also played like hockey for 20 plus years. You know, we played pickup basketball. I ruptured my Achilles at what? I was 31, 32 when that happened. I'm 35 now. When I ruptured my Achilles, that was my switch into like following esports hardcore because I kind of quit a lot of the casual playing that I did, and this was like a way for me to keep that competitive drive up. And so it was a good transition at the right time, right? Like I needed to kind of find something else there.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Sorry, just sometimes I feel like I need to raise my hand. When it came to rupturing your Achilles, number one, that's legitimately like my biggest fear right now is rupturing my Achilles. When it happened, I've always heard that it feels like you get kicked in the back of the leg. Is that accurate?
Yeah, no joke. We were playing pickup basketball. I was dribbling up the court, and behind me, a couple of my buddies were just throwing a football around casually that were waiting for next game. I honestly turned around when it happened because I thought one of them threw the football, and I thought that's what hit my leg because all I heard was a loud like boom in my head, but it felt like somebody kicked me in the back of the leg. And so I legitimately turned around right when it happened, and I was like, damn, Chris, did you throw the ball at me just now? Like, what was it? He goes, no, like whatever that was came out of your body just now. Whatever that sound was. He was 15 yards away, and he heard it happen.
Really?
You know, and it was only just the group of us that were there. It's not like there was lots of people around making noise or anything. It was just us playing, and I heard a pop. They heard the pop, and when I realized it wasn't a ball, I was like, I should sit down. I can't lift my ankle right now. And look, it's a legitimate fear to have because the doctor straight up told me, he goes, look, you couldn't have prevented it. It's not like you did anything to, you know, unless you felt it was aggravated before, which I didn't at the time. He's like, it's just, unfortunately, it's wear and tear. I played soccer for 20 years. I played hockey for about the same amount of time. And he goes, you just took a beating on it over time. And there it goes. He even showed me videos of other pro athletes that had popped it. So he showed me a David Beckham video, a Kobe Bryant video at the time. And he's like, look, these guys are just either walking up the field, in Kobe's case, dribbling up the court, and it just popped on him. And, you know, fortunately, I got married right before that happened. So my wife was the best caretaker I could have asked for during that time. But it was a brutal recovery. Like that was a solid year before I felt normal. And that's where esports really filled in a gap. Like I needed something competitive to kind of keep my mind going. And obviously you have traditional sports, but esports I can play, you know, like I can go play those games and enjoy that competitive feel. So yeah, it's this, if we haven't quit by now, Tim, like we have to be the official esports podcast. Like if we haven't quit after Achilles ruptures, babies, age, like we're not going anywhere at this point.
I've always said we're one divorce and child support check away from going pro.
There it is.
That's it.
So there's a lot to unpack here, actually, for me, and thank you for sharing your story there. That was wonderful. Okay, I actually have two questions. Number one, you guys are both in your 30s now.
I just turned 30 in June.
Okay. So you are both in your 30s.
Yep.
And Tim, you still feel like you can go pro in a video game?
Well, Craig, I would like to mention I was pro in Rainbow Six, Vegas 1 and 2.
How old were you?
15, 16-ish, probably in that given range.
So I just want to point this out, right? I don't know if you know this about me, Tim, but I played slam ball, right?
I've heard.
Yeah, so I played slam ball, right? The idea of you going back and playing pro, right now, after being, I guess, out of the game, you know, for
dormant
14 years, yeah, for a decade and a half, is like the equivalent of me having a slam ball career in 2003, right? And now becoming the starting point guard for the Dallas Mavericks at age 39.
I believe in you.
Okay, I'm just gonna knock Luka out of that position right there. So
you can be a backup. You don't have to be a starter to be pro.
starting. That's what I'm saying. It's being the starting point guard, right, behind one of the best players.
Tim, if Dignitas can have a CSGO roster, you can also be a pro, I feel.
Yeah, right.
Like, if Forrest and all these guys at 30 plus are on a team, I believe in you.
Now, it is funny.
think that you should just start a team. You shouldn't try to be on the team. You should start a team.
That's the beauty of esports, right? Is like if I really wanted to, I could just start a team and put me on it and just let like the 4 guys carry me a little bit.
Right.
You could do that. And that is something funny in esports that you always hear from people outside, right? And it's mainly like with parents where they're like, "Oh, you do a esports podcast, right?" And they're like, "Oh, my kid plays Call of Duty." And you're like,
Yeah, right.
that's like going to like the soccer fields on a Saturday morning, right? And it's like a dad going up to, it's bad. David Beckham, I guess, is the only soccer player we know on the show. And it's like, "Oh, you play soccer. My kid plays soccer." And you're like,
right.
"Yeah, it's a little different." Like,
Yeah, right.
yes, your kid plays Call of Duty all the time. No, he probably can't go pro. Like, it's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, that is the one thing that has been pretty fascinating to see as somebody who look, I don't really follow esports as a whole, right? I kind of see it from the super high plane in the sky, looking down and be like, "Oh, there's the esports thing," right? And that's fun. But you can definitely tell the skill level is, it would be like if you went out and played David Beckham in his prime. Like it would just be asinine to think that you could even take the ball from him. And that kid falling and playing, or if he's falling from the sky playing a game of Warzone, he would be dead before he hit the ground playing against those pros. It's crazy. We were fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of some Twitch Rivals games, like these tournaments, specifically as a part of when PUBG was hot, and we we were called the Water Boys. Because what we would do, because look, here's the thing: we're just average Joe schmoes, right? But we loved PUBG at the time. And by the way, if you haven't played PUBG in a while, it still sucks, but it's kind of fun. But we were invited to play against like these super like top tier players. So the entire tournament was built around placement and not kills. So we would get in a boat and just go out in the water, get out of the boat and just hide behind the boat and just wait for everyone to die. And because we knew we had no chance in a gunfight.
You weren't winning those gunfights, yeah.
Well,
zero chance.
We've always joked about where it's like if we ever joined one of those tournaments, like that's it. That's all you have to do. Because when Battle Royale and BGs were new, that's kind of how they always did. It was all based off placements. And then quickly they learned, probably because of you, they were like, "Oh, this doesn't work. We need to do kills.
Awesome.
We need to make kills meaningful."
I think we probably made all in being the Water Boys. We probably made like $2,500, right? And it's and like that was the thing. There was one point where we were like, they're shoutcasting this, and they're talking. They were talking about us hanging out in the middle of the ocean while everyone else is duking it out, and like. We knew the camera was on us, and we're like, we got fucking bills to pay, like.
I got kids.
You're not even at the computer when the screen's looking at you. You're getting a drink.
Right, exactly. So, it's weird. We got to pay rent. It doesn't matter. I don't care. So, it was fun, but I definitely appreciate the skill level attached to anybody who is a high level esports player. Like even like the old school like OG guys like Fatality. Like he's still insanely good. Yeah. It's crazy.
He was streaming Diabolical the other day and just watching these guys play. Like he still has it. Now, granted, that genre of esport is not as popular, so his competition is less. But in general, he's out there and still fragging out. Still one of the best. It looks like in those types of games.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the game until Tim sent it over, and I watched a little bit of it, and that seems like it's perfect for that guy. That if you're into Doom back in the day or Quake, it seems it's right up his alley.
No, for sure.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about is because in esports it's such a different feeling, and this is where I always try to draw the line for people because people always be like, "Oh, esports and gaming. Like when I started the show and I worked at the Ticket at the time, right? I remember my program director was like, "Hey, why don't we combine your esports show and just do like normal video game talk?" And I kind of hit the brakes and I try to explain to him like they're the same but very different, right? Like someone who's like super into gaming and they're, Mario, Zelda, your single player games are way different. Like they might hate esports. They might not care about it at all. And it could be very vice versa, right? Like gaming and esports is very different. And one thing to me in gaming world, you have that population of people where they love their indie games, right? Indie games for your traditional gamer can be very popular, where indie games trying to break the scene into an esports world can be almost like the kiss of death for that studio. And we've seen it countless of times where, you'll think back and you're like, whatever happened to that game 6 months ago, 3 months ago even? They die so quick. And I just now that we have Diabolical coming out.
I'm gonna see because there was one. I mean, I can't even think of them. Some of the games that we played.
Battalion 1944, was kind of a recent one that was indie studio trying to make it straight into esports, right? Like skip everything in between, organic growth, none of that. Like it was, hey, this game is built to be an esport, and that's where they took 100% of their focus, and you saw it launch and die virtually simultaneously, right? Like it didn't have much of a lifespan. It didn't take off in esports right away, and they didn't tailor it towards the casual player. And Diabolical, different in the sense that they have big name people involved. They have that genre has a very loyal following because they don't have many options, so they're quick to spread word on it. But it is really tough, I believe, for an indie game to try and be big market esport. Like you just don't have the money, I feel like, to put into marketing and everything else that's involved to kind of take it off. But Diabolical, I do feel like has a chance to play in that realm, just because again, it's not like a battle royale. It's not a 5v5 tactical shooter. When you talk about your competition there, you're talking about Quake Champions, a game that's relatively dead and not played or watched by many anymore. So they may be the kind of the outlier that can hang around for a little while.
So let me give you guys a list of some of the BR games that I've played in the last 3 years and these are games that up until like literally this second when I'm looking through my Steam library, I have not thought about since I like uninstalled them. Okay.
So let us give you a thumbs up or thumbs down if we can join you on this experience and let you know if we played any of these.
I have a list on my Steam that is literally titled "Games Anuj Made Me Waste My Money On." And their games that Anuj was like, dude, pick this game up. It's going to be like the next Fortnite. It's going to be fucking huge, Tim. You got to play it now. All right, fine. Let's get it. And then we play 10 hours of it and it's dead.
Right. Okay, here we go. So just give me a thumbs up if you played it, okay? All right. Obviously, we'll just start with the most recent ones I played. PUBG.
Of course.
I mean, played it, but like not within like the year or two.
Okay. Ring of Elysium.
No.
Down.
No. Okay. That was like, it's actually kind of fun, but nobody plays it anymore. Where is it? Realm Royale.
Did play that.
Down.
Yeah. Sky Noon. You ever heard of Sky Noon?
I've never even heard of that one.
Okay. You should check that one out. Actually, that wasn't a BR. It wasn't a BR, but it was a really interesting idea. And Darwin Project. Remember that game?
So that one I never played, but I did enjoy the concept of it. Like it was somewhat original in the sense of BRs.
It was too original.
Really?
It was so original, nobody cared. So people, it's like, it's the whole idea of like, oh man, that's really great. What? Like it's like a really great idea. I'm glad somebody's doing that. I'm never gonna play that.
I'm happy for you. It's great.
Right.
Just, not for me.
There was even like Isles of Nine, Radical Heights, like all of these other ones that have like come and gone so quickly. And Radical Heights, I believe, had a big developer behind it. It was like Cliff
Blazinski. Yeah. So Radical Heights, that's For me, Radical Heights is the game that I miss the most. I loved Radical Heights.
A
Really?
lot of people like that game. So you're
Uh-huh.
not, I don't feel like you're alone in that sentiment at all.
Yeah, it just so I actually spoke with the developer about it. Just pretty. I spoke with a guy who worked at not Cliffy B. Him and I follow each other on Twitter, but we've talked a little bit. But I spoke with a guy who was like actually worked on development of the game, and that whole game was developed in 6 months as like a last chance prayer for their company, and was given literally 1 month to work. And that's kind of the craziest thing about it, because there was a lot there that was really good, and probably the best thing about it is the gunplay on it was really great.
Yeah.
Like when you look at a game even like PUBG was insanely popular at the time. Like even now when I shoot things in PUBG, I don't know if I'm hitting it.
Dude,
It's a
no
mess.
way. No way.
It is a mess. And that's one thing people don't realize. And I'll tell you this right now, Craig, if you don't know, I hate BRs. Do not like them.
Why? What don't you like about them?
So for me, it mainly stems from the competitive esports side of it, to where there's just too much RNG in the sense of you never know what you're going to get. And I know like someone tried explaining it to me. It's like, well, in golf, it could rain. It could whatever, right? Windy conditions could be different for someone. I'm like, yes. And I'm okay with that. Everyone's still on the same playing field. But it's not like in golf, you jump in and Tiger Woods has to hit with a driver and then they give you a putter to start, right? And that to me with where it struggles with BRs.
But Tiger Woods could hit a driver and it could land behind a rock, or a rock that could be there, or it could land in the sand. And like those are, I think, isn't the true measure of an athlete the ability to adapt on the fly, right? When you think of like the beauty of real sports, quote unquote, is the idea that every single game is different at every single time, right? The Stars are playing right now. That what is happening right there, the sequence may be similar, but this thing that is happening right now as they're playing has never happened. This person's, they may have skated similarly, but it's constantly in flux. It's always in flux, right? And yeah, the goal is ultimately to put the puck into the net, right? But at the same time, it's how do you get there? There's different variables. The variables of, it's not like you're playing against the same competitors every time, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. I think BR games are the true essence of what makes a really great, like, yeah, if you go hot drop, if everybody drops in the same area and one guy gets a knife and the other guy gets an M16, like, well, yeah, naturally that's just poor, that's
Right.
just a bad situation. I mean, I totally understand that. But what you see in a lot of esports when it comes to BR games is people will stake out their areas and they will purposely shy away from certain areas. If one team's going here or one team's going here, they try to shy away from it. And I think the cream like truly rises in BR games. I think you see that quite frequently.
I think a BR game can work in esports. I don't think we've had the right BR game as the problem, right? Like PUBG never got polished, right? It still feels like a game that's an alpha or beta every time I've logged into it. It's a very like just an unappealing game to me with the right concept, right? Like if it felt like a AAA title, I think PUBG would be a great game because it does, like, in the sense scale of the map, the guns, like they have the right setup in theory. It's just it never got polished out. Fortnite lacks a developer that's competent to be able to run an esport. I think BRs have a place in esports. I just don't think we've honestly had the right game. As a casual game, I really enjoy BRs. To me, that's a quick game that I can get into. It can maybe last 5 minutes, could last 30. I can go and come as I please. If I have to leave in the middle of the game, I don't feel too bad, especially as a new dad. Like, it's nice to have those types of options. I just think we're missing the right BR game. Like, nobody is really taking it to that next level. You don't see it in Call of Duty. They've made it more of a casual game that's done really well in the Twitch rivals type settings. But nobody's kind of taken that next leap, I think, to really flesh out a game. H1Z1 had a little bit right. PUBG has a little bit going for it. But we've kind of see it tail off a little bit, right? Like, it's not like the next one is always on on the brink of coming out. We had like Isles of Nine, and then obviously Realm Royale and Radical Heights, and it's kind of been one after another, but we've seen it kind of die off, I feel, in the last year in terms of what's coming out next. That's not maybe like a casual game.
I don't think that BR necessarily, the idea of a BR is to find the best player, right? That's the whole idea, right? That's what makes Battle Royale so fun, right? Is the idea that you have 60 people, 100 people, whatever it may be, and one person's going to come out on top, right? I think that's really fun. But the idea of behind either having an esports title or making a game that can be profitable for many years. I think there's a little difference, like they're two totally different audiences. And as huge as esports is, there's way more people who play Call of Duty for fun than there are who want to play Call of Duty competitively.
I mean, and that's 100%. And like I said, that's why I don't knock them, right? I get why people focus on BRs, and I understand where people's appeal to them. For me, I'd rather play like Counter-Strike or Valorant or that more intimate strategy type of shooter. Like bringing it back to Diabolical, I think what you just said, Craig, is absolutely correct, where you have that line of, will it be this crazy financial success? Probably not. Like, let's be real. Arena shooters were a time when we grew up. I don't think kids these days gravitate to arena shooters like it was, 20 years ago. And honestly, it's like Diabolical, no knock on the game, no knock on it, but it's almost like a copy and paste job from Quake. Like if you didn't like Quake, or if you tried Quake and you're like, not my thing, and you're like, I'm going to go try Diabolical, like, stop, because it is the same thing.
Well, I was watching a video. It says like why the developer, whatever the guy's name is, who developed was it called Diabolical?
Yeah, so you're
right?
bots. So
okay.
instead of Diabolical, you get it?
Got it.
Bot is in the middle,
hilarious.
and you're a robot.
Well, so what he said in it was, there was a space for this game, right? There was an area for this game in esports, and the first thing I thought was, because nobody wants to play this, right? Like, of course there's a hole
absolutely
for
right.
it, right? Like, like sometimes there's a reason why there's a hole. It's called because if it was popular, people would be all about it. But no, like the idea of that type of game is obsolete. So,
like, again, I think it could have a space in esports. It's just not going to be top dog, right? Like it could be there, and it could be relevant, and it could have their own tournaments and have an audience, but it'll always be relatively small compared to the rest of the landscape.
Well, and here's my fear too, and this is where I think an indie developer struggles to break the scene. Now, Diabolical does have the advantage of, like, the developer comes from esports, so he has a lot of friends and connections in high places to help kind of build the hype around it, which is what you're seeing, right? On Twitter and social media, you're like, why are all these guys in esports talking about this game all of a sudden? It's because their buddies were the ones who made it. But at any moment, Quake and Bethesda and all those guys running that game, at any moment, could money whip the scene with $1 million tournament, and anyone playing Diabolical is going to switch right back to Quake because esports runs on the prize pool money.
Sure, of course. By the way, speaking of it, is Fortnite still doing like $100 million per year or whatever it is? Like,
yeah, they're doing them in like cash cups. So the way it works is like they have regional tournaments that take place online right now that you qualify to join. So it's not esports in that sense, though. Like, they have one-off competitions that don't really lead or amount to anything. Like, there's no leaderboard of, hey, these are the top 10 pros right now. Like, they're just one-off cash cups that they do, and that's how they filter out money to their players.
Got it. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, the amount of money associated with these games is nuts. But again, the amount of money that's being made by them is even more nuts, So,
yeah.
I mean, good for them.
Fortnite's not, Epic Games is not even blinking with $100 million a year. given
Right.
away in prize pool money. They're making tens of million a day just in transactions online, for different cosmetic skins. And yeah, the money is definitely a big driving factor for indie developers to be able to break into the scene. Like they would need huge sponsors at that point. I just don't think Diabotical's case that's really the genre that somebody's going to jump behind to be like, hey, let's throw a $10 million prize pool at this because we think this is the next big thing.
Right.
Probably not the case,
No. No, just
Yeah.
definitive no.
Yeah.
Just throw that down there. I want to hear more about, like, before we got going, Tim was telling me about some drama and stuff. I want to hear about this drama in the CSGO. Tell me
Yes.
about this.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, I did have a listener in chat want me to ask Craig, and I think I know the answer. Have you played Hyperscape? Since you're a BR guy.
Yeah. Have I played it? No. Do I want to? No.
There you go.
No, I don't. It looks like a the idea of like doing this vertical gameplay, right, where you're on top of buildings and running through houses and stuff. Like it sounds really cool in theory, but it looks like what people thought in like 1985. Nah, like when 1995. Like it looks like what in 1995 people thought the future would look like, right? But it wasn't very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a huge. I don't really like the visual look of it.
No, you're spot on. Like it's just one of those games where we both were able to even play the beta and we didn't even download it. We watched it a little bit on Twitch and we're like, this is not for us. Like this is not our style. I would almost rather go play Apex, than hop into Hyperscape.
You don't like Apex?
I do like Apex.
Yeah, we do.
I'm just saying,
Apex.
like they kind of had like if I was looking for a fast-paced BR to go play, like Apex would be my go-to. I don't think I'd be downloading Hyperscape to go do it. I think Apex is actually a pretty damn good BR. Like Apex has done really well. I think where they've unfortunately dragged behind is they should have been quicker, I think, with releasing more characters and give more map options rather than going from like one to the other. Like they could have built that out. I felt like they had so much Titanfall material that they could have used to build out multiple maps, had characters kind of flowing out almost like you see in MOBAs. And it would have been better for that scene than where they tried to do like random fixes here and there that just never really worked out, and they revert a lot of stuff because it doesn't get good feedback. Like they just needed to be more aggressive when they had the player base, and they waited, I think, too long. And now it's kind of in a stale spot where it has a good following, but I don't know if it's going to grow again. Like, is it going to get an audience bump again? I just don't see that.
Yeah, I think the only way it does, like you said, if they throw money at it and turn it into a big, turn in some major tournaments, because it's a really fun game. But when you watch competitive Apex versus casual Apex, the game is so drastically different. Drastically different. Like there's so much camping in competitive Apex. It's almost boring to watch. And the game is built around speed. And people will take a zone or take an area and just hang out, and it's boring.
Just wait it out. Yeah. But I enjoy the game as a casual game for sure. Like I really enjoy Apex. I think it was a well-made BR, honestly.
All right.
Me too. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Final thoughts on Apex.
Saying, yeah. Me gusta Apex. Go.
All right. So let's get into the CS drama then, because this is actually a following up topic from our last episode. So to catch everyone up is that there was discovered a bug that has now we have a little bit more light on it, right? Last episode we were kind of discussing like this was somewhat newer. Maybe it's been around for like, a couple months, 6 months at the most. Not the case. So Anuj, who was the person who originally reported it? Do you have? Okay, so PETA was originally the guy, and now this is talking about years ago that he reported this coaching bug that coaches have been just now are getting busted for using and abusing, that allows you to like spectate certain areas of the map. So we talked about last week, Anuj, how this online era of CS with Corona is just going to be kind of marked as, the steroid era for baseball. Well, now this is looking at from years ago that this could be going on for online events, which for the longest time was what a lot of tournament organizers used for qualifiers to get into big, meaningful tournaments. So look, CS is my baby. I love CS. I will never, it's unconditional love. But this, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Well, describe this to me as a casual right here.
So
What does this bug do?
I'll let
What is the
Anuj.
benefit of it?
Yeah, so basically the way it works is you have a coach in Counter-Strike that can view he's in the server with the players and he's there as a spectator. And so the way the bug took place is when everybody on the team died and the round was going to restart, it left the coach's camera in place in a specific spot on the map. Random, but it would be somewhere on the map and it wouldn't reset them back to a first person view of their players. So rather than like the next round starting and they're watching their team in a first person's perspective, they're basically a drone on the map and can get information and see things that you should not be able to see, right? Like if your camera is stuck in the middle of a bomb site, you now have full visual of that bomb site without one of your players having to be there. And so
I'm sorry, just real quick. So this sounds bad, right?
Yeah.
it is bad. Yeah.
And this has been going on for years.
So it's been reported recently because a player came out or a coach came out and it can made his confession tape or whatever you should say.
So you're telling me that this thing has been going on for a long time, and people like just now, like, and the countless number of people who played this in tournaments. I don't even know how many coaches have seen it, how many players you've had, how many coaches, but like just now, this one guy is whistleblowing this.
He didn't even whistleblow it. Somebody else whistleblew it recently, and he came out and confessed to it because now they're going back and watching demos from a couple years ago. So all these people are now coming out and saying, hey, I used this bug in 2016 or 2017 or 2018, 2019. I used this bug. I just want to let everybody know I'm sorry I did it, this one or two times, because they know now the tapes are being reviewed. You can go back and rewatch a game from a coach's spectator cam. So you can see if they took advantage of the bug. If it glitched out, you'll know that they didn't report it because for the rest of the match, they're going to be sitting in this one space like a bird's eye view. And so the whistleblowers happened recently. These guys now are confessing to doing it a year or two ago. One of them said he did let the developer know. That's where the problem comes into play is a couple of these that have come out said they did let Valve know at the time that the bug happened. They took advantage of it. You need to fix it. It never got fixed. And here we are 2 years later, and now it's kind of coming out to the public that, hey, all these guys in the online era have this asterisk because we know they cheated in some form. Not everybody, but it's going to be a large percentage because if one person knows in Counter-Strike, everybody knows. This is not like some secret where a group of 4 or 5 people were taking advantage of it. It's a random bug that was happening. So like it's happened to multiple people. It may have been reported multiple times, but it's now coming to light. Now we're getting video evidence of people taking advantage of the bug, and it's causing a big headache for Counter-Strike, for the developers itself, because they're taking a lot of backlash now, and now you don't know what to do with the online era of CS. How meaningful has it been over the past 2 years if we know people have been taking advantage of it?
Yeah, so there's a great saying in sports, in life, like you do it till somebody says stop, right? Like, and if especially in a competitive scene, right? It's not the coach's job. The coach, like as a coach, as a player, you're looking for this is just a general, not even esports. Like you're looking for every advantage you can have, right? Like, what's the issue here? So there's zero issue with this.
We kind of talked about it last time, is where it's like, I don't necessarily have an issue. Like I from an ethics standpoint, like, sure, you shouldn't cheat. But from a, I get it standpoint, I get it, right? I get where if it happened, then you didn't say anything. That's fine. Where I have an issue is when they're going to Valve and the developers and the person who is supposed to be fixing it, and they're not fixing it.
Why?
That's kind of the big question. Like,
Why be mad about it? If they don't make it a priority, then it is what it is. That's like going to the NBA and being like, well, I have an issue with the free throw line. It's 15 feet. It should probably be 16 feet or whatever.
Well, I think it would
whatever.
be more so an issue like with the MLB. Had people said, hey, the Astros are hitting their trash cans to give away signs, and the MLB was like, oh yeah, we've known about that. Like, we've known that for a while now, that they've been using their trash cans to steal signs. And that's the more of what it's like, is that like Valve know that these guys are basically seeing a bird's eye view of a map to basically report to their team where the other team is going, and they're not supposed to be seeing it. They're essentially stealing the signs.
But if every team is using the trash cans,
that's the issue, though. It's not every team was. It's a random bug, right? So some teams would have it, some teams wouldn't have it. You didn't know when it was happening.
You also didn't know where it was going to place the camera, right? So it would randomly just throw you in a place, and if it happened to be in a good spot where you could visually see a lot of the map, hey, great. Like, it happened to you in the right spot. It's an ethics thing. So we are seeing bans come out. I don't know if, from last episode we talked about this, but a lot of coaches have been banned. Players are not getting in trouble at this point, although we do know that their involvement is just as much as the coaches, right? Like, the coach is relaying the information to them. And if he's relaying that type of information, they know it's because of the bug.
That's
like, this guy can't see through walls.
Craig, you'll love this. The players are saying they had no idea their coaches were doing it. Like, I had no idea. I thought my coaches were just nailing these call-outs.
Right.
I had no idea.
Like, everybody's got Red Arbok over here. Like,
so do you see this, kind of knowing the little bit that we've kind of discussed it here? Do you feel like there should be no penalties across the board if the developer is aware of the bug? Or like, what is your thought on it?
Zero penalties. If the developer didn't make it a priority, then there should be zero penalties attached to it. If the developer was like, look, we're going to fix it and we don't want anybody to use this while we, if this happens, then you should absolutely make sure that this is reported when it happens, and they put together some stipulations attached to that. Okay. Sure. I get it. But that's not the case. So
in this case, it's not the developer handing down the penalties. Right now, it's tournament organizers that were also aware of the bug, that were telling people, hey, if this happens, you need to self-report. We need to restart the round or whatever. And then they didn't do that at that point. So the tournament organizers are the ones holding them accountable. That's where the bans are coming from, not from the developer side. So they're not banned from like the game as a whole.
Well, I think then the tournament organizer has the right to do that. Right, that's totally fine if the tournament organizer would like to do that. But I don't know. I think that if in any athletic in anything, you go until somebody says stop, you push the boundaries, and if there are rules in place, okay, and you purposely violated those rules, okay, of that tournament, I can see that. They don't invite you back, whatever it may be, but if it was part of the game, it's part of the game. I mean, literally, it's part of the game, so
I'm starting to sway the way that you feel about it. Like, last episode, we didn't know that this had been self-reported 2 years ago, right? We thought it had really been happening since like the COVID timeline. That's kind of how we've been following it. Now, knowing that this goes back and stems as far back as it does, I'm not looking for them to go through 25,000 demos and start banning every coach across the board. Right, I think this needs to almost be looked at like the steroid era in baseball. And there's an asterisk of, hey, this bug was going on during this time. Some people benefited from it, but hey, it happened widespread, and we can't take it out on everybody and start handing out year bans like they are doing in some cases, 1 year, 2 year bans that we're seeing. You're going to cripple a scene that I think is a little bit more fragile right now than people seem to think. Like, Counter-Strike's been top dog. I don't know, again, how much you follow esports per se, but Counter-Strike's been one of the top 2 esports for the last 4 or 5 years now. As of late, there's been this sense of fear that Valorant's knocking on the doorstep. Like, we knew this game was coming out for a while. we've seen it release, and what we're seeing now more than anything is a bunch of tier 2 pros from Counter-Strike move over to Valorant. So the scene is being affected on the tier 2 side and lower tier 1 side. Now if you start handing out year to 2 year bans, you're only going to hurt it more. So I almost feel like it should just be like the steroid era. Look, if you don't want to give them props and don't want to write their name on this beautiful wall of esports heroes in Counter-Strike, fine.
Right.
Don't do that. But I don't think we need to see widespread bans of like 20, 30 coaches, players taking hits. Like, I just don't think Counter-Strike can afford that right now.
I think, if I'm going to take the line from EA Sports, right? If it's in the game, it's in the game.
Literally.
It is what it is, so.
Now there's the other part, the other side of the coin with the CSGO drama is now that there's more evidence and more accusations being thrown around in the Mountain Dew League, which is like the minor league team for CS. I like the Mountain Dew League, and then you sniff. Is that just the most
awesome.
gamer league thing, like the Mountain Dew Dorito League?
Just the fact that there's a league called the Mountain Dew League.
It's their tier 2 scene.
Yeah, it's kind of their minor league, if you will. So now there's
Love
been
it.
more and more accusations of pros match fixing. So they're throwing games, fixing matches to win bets on the side and everything there. And
Nice.
nothing official, but they've said that some of the pros, the high-level pros that jumped ship there, are now top-tier pros in the newer esports scene for Valorant.
Nice.
So now
This
they
is
have
awesome,
drama
man.
there where, match fixing, I don't know if you know this, Craig, with match fixing has always had kind of a black mark on CS, right? Many years ago, a team known by iBuyPower, who Anuj is coincidentally repping today, threw matches. And they were like top NA team at the time. It was a very big deal. Valve perma-banned the guys from ever playing in a major or anything like that. But people have kind of, with time have forgiven them.
Sure. Time heals all wounds.
Yep. And so now, though, we're having it happen again, and those players are reportedly going to Valorant, and now they're making money playing Valorant, and now there's the argument of, okay, how do we even handle the tier 2 side of CS, and how do we, do we need to go to Riot and have them punish them for Valorant and things like that? Anuj, did I miss any other details? All I've seen so far, and mind you, I spent the last 24 hours icing and making Mickey Mouse cupcakes, so I might be out of the loop here. But have there been any definitive names thrown out?
Yeah, there's been 3 names that I've heard on stream of other pro players that they've mentioned they knew they were involved. Calypso from Envy, Shanks, and who is the third
No,
one?
not Shanks.
Yeah, Shanks, and who's the third one? Tim? Marved from FaZe. So those 3 players all came from the MDL League, and all 3 of them have been brought up in they said that they even had a chat group of games that were being fixed at the time that multiple people were in, and those were the 3 names that were mentioned. But this is going to get nasty because I do think people are going to want them to be held accountable, even if they moved on to another esport.
Scandalous.
Mm-hmm.
Scandalous. This is outstanding.
Counter-Strike's been on the bad end of the news for the last
Craig,
6 months now.
if you like spicy drama, you just pay attention to
boy.
Counter-Strike.
Oh, man.
And COD. COD is good for drama, too.
Well, COD is filled with a bunch of 6-year-olds.
That's
so.
also very true. Different type of drama, but still drama.
Right. Man, that's awesome. I love it's honestly, it's hilarious. It sounds so stupid. What you're saying, it sounds so dumb. It's so great. It's could you imagine that happening in a non-esports arena, right? That would be the biggest news ever. It'd be huge. And the fact that it's not covered by it says a lot that the idea of cheating on games and throwing games and point shaving, you hear about the NBA and Donaghy, the referee who was helping fix games for the mob and all that stuff, and crooked referees and throwing games. It's wow, that's awesome. That's amazing.
That was
It's just
all over the place when it happened.
right, right.
That was
It's just
regular news, not just sports news.
yeah. I didn't even know what this was going on. It's honestly, it's hilarious. It's funny because I mean, I hope they made good money throwing the
They
games.
probably
They probably did.
You
Yeah, they
think they
probably
did?
made decent. I think they did. Yeah, I think gambling money in Counter Strike, gambling tier 1 and tier 2 is a really big scene. Now, the way that can also happen is through skin gambling. Skin gambling is really profitable in Counter Strike. Skins in Counter Strike
That's
can
true.
sell for thousands and thousands of dollars, right? And people are more willing to risk those in-game items that have real monetary value. It's not always necessarily cash transactions, but I think there was a lot of money thrown around here, and I think they were able to profit, whether that's tens of thousands. I don't know if it's necessarily hundreds of thousands, but it's probably as much as their salary was. Like it wouldn't surprise me if the numbers are that high. I do think it is odd that we haven't seen more talk about it. I think part of that is because the investigations are still ongoing, so we don't have definitive answers.
Investigations by who?
ESIC, so it's an organization that is right now reviewing all the demos, collecting all the evidence. I don't know what their broad. I know they're like they help determine a lot in Counter Strike. They have a lot of pull in the Counter Strike scene, so they're the ones that are actually investigating it, working with the CSPPA, which is the Counter Strike Pro Player Association. They've combined their efforts to like figure out who was involved with this. Match fixing does not go like by the wayside. I know it's not a huge story right now. It will be
Yeah.
because these guys are tier 1 Valorant pros. Their names will be tossed out there and they'll be a lot more recognizable today than they were when these scandals probably happened. People know them a lot more right now because they are the best in one of the most popular games currently being played. So I think we will see some sort of action taken against them, whether that comes from the likes of their organization that is working with them. I think you'll see players be dropped for this. They will be kicked off of a team. I don't think you'll see Riot hand down penalties because it's not their game. I do think we'll see organizations take this a little bit more seriously because who really wants anybody that's match fixed to be on their roster at any point? Like that is an individual you truly can't trust. It's the worst sin in sports is to throw a match. Like there's really not a worse way to cheat, right? Like putting tar on the baseball, corking a bat. To me, that doesn't even stand in the same arena as like match fixing. It's just I do think we'll see this get bigger as we actually get names and all that out. The ESIC, by the way, is the Esports Integrity Coalition.
Oh, I'm googling it right now. I'm learning all about this. This is fascinating stuff.
I do think like I said, it's one of those things where it's so weird because like the iBuyPower boys, Nude, you said, who would want a match fixer on your team, but yet all of them have pretty much signed with Valorant rosters now, right? But that also was like 5 years ago, even longer now, and they were kind of the first to really get busted.
They were penalized. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So the iBuyPower people that are playing right now, whether that's Steel, Brax, AZK, they were banished from a game for 4 years. And they weren't even banned, right? They were on an indefinite ban, and Valve let them have hope that they would be able to return at some point. So these 3 kids that were like 15 and 16 at the time continued to play this game with the hopes of being reinstated until 4 years went by and Valve said, you know what? That indefinite ban, it's now permanent. So people looked at these 3 or 4 players and were like, wow, you guys like served some real time. Like you were really in esports jail, right? You didn't know if you were going to be let out. So them signing is a lot different than somebody that match fixed, quit the game, moved over to be pro in another game to avoid penalties and take no penalty. And now, hey, by the way, you went from being a tier 2 shitty player in this game to being like one of the top most recognized players in this other esports that's about to take off. So the sentiment there from the general audience is going to be really different. The way we approach Steel, AZK, Brax is not how you're going to see, like the public opinion will not be on their side at all, I don't think.
Man, I love it. I love it. I legit love everything about this conversation. It's it's so fascinating to hear. Like, so what's how much money is being thrown on? What's an average CSGO player make professional?
A pro player can make upwards of like 15 to 20K a month if they're one of the top tier pros. So that's monthly. They're bringing in without counting, any other revenue that they're generating through Twitch or through winnings, prize pool money. A tier 2 player, theirs is going to be a lot less. I mean, you're really looking at 10 to 30, maybe a little bit more K yearly. It's going to be significantly less in their case as a tier 2 player. But tier 1 players, if you're in a top 10 team, you're making very good money. It's not all the same. It's not like everybody's making 25K a month. But there are teams that have players that are making oodles of money. Again, it varies. It's not, there's not like the players union is really not a true players union in Counter-Strike. So we don't know the terms of everyone's contracts, but even buyouts, if you keep up with soccer, Counter-Strike buyouts are getting crazy. Sometimes to buy a player, it's upwards of $1 million off of a roster. So a lot of money changes hands within Counter-Strike, whether that's between orgs or players.
Tim, I have a question.
Yes.
And I hope this isn't too personal.
Nothing's too personal.
Good. When you were an esports player, professional, what type of salary did you generate?
Yeah, Tim.
Define salary, Craig.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. All right. Some people play for the money. Okay. Some people play for the love of the game. All right. I wasn't there for the money. I was there for the love. I was there for the heart, the sweat, the blood, the tears with my teammates.
Okay. I see what's going on here. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Good. Excellent sugarcoating.
So
Tim was just getting prize pool money.
That's also true. So like when I was pro,
that's how Tim got paid.
It was definitely just like how, look, that was 15 years ago. That's when esports was raw, right? That's when it was like a team. If you had a sponsor for your team, it was like, oh shit, like you are official, right? So that, I mean, back
I remember
then,
going to MLG events.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like MLG Dallas and everything. And I think like I think I won like $100 one time where like we were able, like each of us on the team got 100. So that was like what, 400 total in one tournament. And like, that was like, we fucking made it, boys. Like, start the 401k. We're retiring today.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah. So it's just, it's a different world. Like, if I could match fix for thousands of dollars, I probably would have. Because
right.
Like kids these days, they have so much opportunities to make money. They can cheat, they can throw matches, they can play them, but nothing like what I can do.
No, I hear you, man. Like, and we've all been dumb before, right? Think about, I'm guessing, are these pros, how old are they?
I mean, most of them are
late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So like when you're at your dumbest, pretty much. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you are, but in Counter-Strike, again, it's a little different. Not to say that people are dumb in Counter-Strike. It's just, it was already such a stain on the community because of those previous match fixers. So for it to like kind of roar its head and show that it's been going on for quite some time still, it's like an extra level of dumb, right? Not your ordinary, we're making a mistake. Like, you saw what happened to these people before. You saw indefinite bans turn into perma bans. You saw these guys beg year after year. There was literally a freaking movement to get these guys reinstated. You saw what they had to go through. You saw it. And then you come back around and you do the same thing, hoping not to get caught, just to make a little extra dough. I get it. You want to make money, but you're right at the brink of being a tier 1 professional. Why not put your focus in becoming better at what you're doing, or wait for the next big game like they all did and move over? Now this is going to be something that follows them. Like, I truly, like, I do hope that they are penalized. If they went unpenalized because they switch games, that's setting a bad tone for future gamers. Like, that is something, as adults, the boomer crew here, it's called setting an example, right? And if you let them go unpunished, what's to stop somebody else that knows they're going to switch games in a month or two because something's coming out from, hey, let me just throw these next 4 or 5 games, make a little extra money before I'm out of here. They're not going to punish me anyway.
Well, would you like to know why they did that? Would you like to know why I mean, I don't even know who these people are. I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you why they did it. Because they're young and stupid. That's why. Like, that's the reality of it, is that everybody is young and stupid when they're teenagers, when they're in their early 20s. You think you know everything, you know nothing, and you'll do anything to make a buck, regardless of what's happening, because you don't think you can get caught. I mean, that's what happens. It happens every day in all walks of life, and esports is no different. And like, you as a wise sage 35-year-old with child, right? You know this. You've experienced this. You've been through life. You have life experience. These kids don't. These kids are, I mean, that's the reality of it, is that they don't have life experience, and they're dumb. And that's why they did it. They're just dumb. It's not their fault. They're just dumb. And I know that sounds really mean, but why don't you make
No, I get it. I get it. Like, being young and dumb is definitely a factor in it. I don't think it makes it excusable though.
No, it
do.
doesn't. Not at all. But if it's like, when your entire business is built around, like, once again, young dumb kids, right? Then chances are young dumb kid decisions are gonna happen, right? Esports has not progressed to the point to where there are, there may be coaches and they may live in houses together and big houses, whatever, but it's not like the NBA and NFL and the professional sports leagues, in that when you enter, you're introduced immediately to how you should act as a professional, how you should manage your money, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. And even then, in these professional sports leagues, the failure rate is astronomically high. You hear about all these people who lose their money after trying to help, signing these big deals. They try to help. They spend frivolously. They're bankrupt. And once again, it's because they're young and dumb. They're they don't know any better. They think they know better, right? And it's just the situation that, like, very rarely do you see somebody
they're invincible at the end of the day, right? Like, they don't think
exactly.
anything's going to come back and bite them in the ass. Young and dumb, to me, is a good excuse for getting drunk the night before a game, or sleeping in for a practice, or missing a scrim that you have set up. I attribute that to being young and dumb. Match fixing, yes, a dumb mistake can still be made, but this one's going to cost them. Like, this is that mistake that gets you to lose a job versus being fined for sleeping in or missing out on a team event or a team activity. You're 18. You know what you're doing. Like, you know what you're doing, right? And so that's, to me, is where, once this investigation goes through, it's going to be another black stain on the community. And I'm curious to see what, like, long-term repercussions this has for Counter-Strike, and now, like, looking forward to Valorant.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure that Riot just loves to see that some of their top pros that have moved over now, trying to start the scene up, is being investigated for match fixing and everything there. I will agree, Craig, and we'll let you go here in a minute because I know we're holding you hostage, but the Stars game's over, so they won.
What happened?
They won.
That's awesome.
So there you go. Up 1-0 in the series.
That's awesome. Thank God.
But I do agree with you, and that's one thing, right, where people always think, oh, esports is this booming industry, billion-trillion-dollar industry. It's the wave of the future, but yet I feel like as an industry, we do so little as far as, like, creating a healthy foundation, right? Because even with professional sports, you have kids that go through college in sports, and they have that inspirational coach figure, the father figure, right, who kind of tells them, like, hey, this is what it's going to be like in life and things like that. And like how you said, you go to a professional team, the first thing they do is give you a media training, right? Hey, the do's and don'ts of Twitter, right? Don't tweet out your dick, right? Like, rule number 1, don't take financial advice from people in your DMs. Like, don't send your bank account information. Things
don't
like
be
that.
a racist. Like,
Yeah,
those
right.
things. Yeah.
Like the do's and don'ts. They tell you all of that, and they give you almost like a life coach to help out in sports, with esports, and I know some bigger orgs are starting to do this, right? Like I know like Envy here in Dallas, they do a lot to kind of take the players in under their wing. It's not just a paycheck. It's kind of like, you're representing our brand. We should probably teach you how to behave like an adult. But the issue is esports, especially when you're getting down to these lower tiers and like tier 2 or whatever, it's still the Wild West out there. It's still just a dude with money who owns a team house, and he has these kids move in, and he's just like, hey, you're a pro gamer, play games. And that's pretty much their only instruction in life. So I do agree with you that it's just, I feel like there needs to be more responsibility on the org side when it comes to, but I also agree that, I remember being 18, and though I was young and dumb, you also knew robbing a store probably wasn't the best idea.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, right from wrong, for
Yeah.
sure. Most of the time, but that's also, had you been playing professionally for 4 years at that point, since you were 14, and everyone says, oh, your shit don't stink, oh man,
Yeah.
you're the best. You're the best. Oh man. Like so sometimes you get, you're told that and you start to believe it.
Yeah.
And that's the most messed up part about it. So,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Well, Craig, we're going to talk some Call of Duty roster moves. You're more than welcome to stay, but you are also more than welcome to skedaddle. I know
Give me a quick one. Give me a quick one. Just tell me who moved real quick. What happened?
Seattle cut. I'll give you one good one. We'll give you one good one so we can save the rest for the segment.
Sure.
Seattle let go of their whole roster except for one player. Octane.
Horrible move.
They were last place last season.
Now they won't have a team to play if there's nobody on their team. There's only one player. That's ridiculous. How
They
can you win
might
squads?
do better with just Octane on the roster.
Clearly, if he goes water boy route, he could just hang out in the water, and I guess Call of Duty doesn't really have water. He can go hide in the corner, and
you can go camp in a building and get a few kills. Yeah,
make his way there. But hey, Seattle, thumbs down on that.
The irony here is all season long, people were asking them to release Octane because he deserves better. And so they did them one better and said, oh, we'll set him free, but by keeping him here and kicking everyone else off. So now he's still stuck with the org.
Well, if they're looking to sign any players, I played it on the PlayStation 4 once or twice.
They might have a better chance with us three on that lineup right now.
Let's go with that. All right, guys, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Professional PUBG Waterboy and top 15 in NBA Jam. What was the number?
12.
Top
12.
Number 12.
Oh, don't let me sell you short.
Specifically, top 12 in NBA hang time. I want to point that out. There's a big difference between the games.
Okay.
Way more advanced. So,
well, Craig, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate your background, really classing up the show a little bit for us, and it was good to get some insight from somebody that's in the gaming world and not like 100% tied to esports. Because it's always cool to see people's perspective on what they feel there. So, really appreciate you joining us, man, and hope to have you on again soon.
For sure, buddy. If you ever want totally non-biased thoughts on esports, the next time we talk about it will be the next time I think about it.
Hey, and you know what? Sometimes we need that because
love it.
Sometimes we're too close to it. So, all right, bro, I'll let you go. We'll catch up sometime soon. And good luck with the podcast. Where can people find you? Twitter at Craig Skits.
Yeah, YouTube, Craig Skits. Twitch, Craig Skits. There you go.
What's the podcast name?
It's called the Craig Skits Podcast. What's up?
Even better. Guys, very easy find. Go check out Craig.
The branding is on point.
You made it simple, and we appreciate that.
I like it.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. So there you go. There's Craig. Craig Skits. We've been buddies now for roughly 3 or 4 years, and we kind of kept in touch.
It seems like he would fit into our gaming group very well.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great guy to talk to, and he's a good dude. Like, he is what you would consider, what I would always consider like that kind of adult gamer, right? Where he fits in right with our kind of mindset. So thanks to Craig for coming on the show. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that little different outlook on esports. I definitely liked his take on like just the Counter-Strike stuff. I felt like was so different from what we approached it last week, but it's good to hear that outsider perspective, because I do kind of agree with him now, where I'm like, well, I guess if Valve really did know about it, like, let's not knock the coaches. If Valve knew about the bug and didn't fix it.
It's funny because, yeah, you're right. Like the bug side, that obviously is kind of how I felt a little bit after we found out it had been out for 2 years, right? I was like, oh shit, these guys knew about it for a long time. Like, what are they going to do? Just ban everyone now? Like that doesn't seem like the most logical route if they've known
Right.
about it. Now they took advantage of it, and there should be an asterisk there. But I do think on the flip side, now this news of match fixing will almost take over, in the sense of once that information comes out, may take over and like kind of one up this nasty situation we're dealing with the coaching bug.
Like you said, it's such like striking similarity between the steroid era and baseball, where it's like at first you're like, oh man, there's like these 3 players did steroids. Ah, they should be banned from the record book. Screw them. And then you realize everyone did it, and you're like, oh, all right, well then.
It's like, oh, it wasn't just Mark
What's the
McGuire,
big
Sammy
deal?
Sosa, and Barry Bonds.
What's the
There's
big
like
deal? Like
everybody.
I said, the story here should be that the players and coaches who are saying they used the bug still were like notoriously bad teams. So like, not only were you cheating using a bug that you should probably dominate with, you still sucked. Like that's you're bearing the lead here. Like
No,
that is
Tim,
the lead.
now the way I look at it is, oh, well, the other team was using the damn bug too, probably at that time. So it was just who had a better spawn spot
Just
with it.
Zeus hasn't came out and admitted it yet. So, but again, so go follow Craig at Craig Skitz. That is SKITZ Skitz. Go check him out. We'll have him on the show again sometime down the road, though. It's definitely nice to kind of have that refreshing take. Let's get into some COD roster moves, though, and we can just run through these if you want, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, so like I kind of broke it down in a couple different areas. Some things that are confirmed that we know of. Others, more in the rumor mill. The rumor mill is where a lot of the excitement is. So maybe we just go over the confirmations to start off and just let you know who's free and where that, not where they're going necessarily, but who's a free agent. We know Temp from the Subliners is a free agent. We know Toronto has basically released all the backups. They kept Cammy, Kleenex, Methods, and Bance, but there is rumors that they may add an additional player that could be a starter at the end of the day to team up with them. And then the big one that we mentioned just a few moments ago, Seattle letting go of their whole roster and building around Octane, which, look, if you're Seattle and you convinced Octane to stay and to build around him, people are going to want to play with Octane. He's one of the best ARs in the game. He should be able to convince people to come and play with him. The only hesitation I would have of playing with Seattle is seeing how badly they've managed their Overwatch and Call of Duty team. That would be my only fear going to Seattle. But in terms of if you were going to release the whole roster and reset, if you get to keep Octane and build off of him, like that's a pretty big W for Seattle. I don't know if it is for Octane yet. We'll see who he gets, but it's a big W for Seattle.
Like I said, I was joking about how it's just so funny that the entire hashtag all season long was hashtag free Octane. And then at the end of the season, they said, you know what, guys, we're going to let him go by releasing everyone else. And so now Octane is the sole survivor. And I agree with you. That is my one concern. And that's why you still somewhat feel bad for Octane, because the issue wasn't with the team. Like Seattle at the start of the year was someone's fate, like they were a top 5 contender in as far as power rankings go. It's the org itself that had issues. So you hope it was just a case of COVID and they just couldn't manage through it.
It didn't mesh ultimately, right? Like we expect to see apathy on a roster, right? I don't think apathy all of a sudden just sucks at the game. He's a 2-time world champion. Like I expect to see him in a starting lineup come next year. Slacked a little bit more of a 50-50, a down year for him. It'll be interesting to see if he gets picked up. Obviously the Karma and the Enable situation, like both of them, Karma retiring Enable had an announcement. I actually don't know what it was, but Enable could find himself on a roster. It'll be interesting to see who they now get to pick up around him. I think that was just something that lineup did not work out together. Like it just didn't work. Too hard to pull somebody in from the outside, considering they had some big names on the bench. And it just a bad year. Like hitting the reset button there was probably the right way to go.
Yeah. We actually talked about this, I think last episode, where we would like to see Clay on New York. That might not seem as far-fetched as it did last time.
Yeah, like rumors are circulating that's the team he's most likely going to sign with and team up with Zuma and Mac. I think what's surprising for me is that we haven't heard Attach's name really thrown around as being a part of that lineup. For me, I would like to see Attach get a chance to play with that crew. Like I think those four could be very good together, but if they're targeting another young stud, another really good like sub player to go along with them, like hey, maybe that's the right move in 4v4. So that lineup to me would become an instant threat, right? I think swapping out Temp for Clayster is an improvement. Finding out who their fourth is going to be is going to be interesting, whether it's Attach or somebody else. Like that lineup to me becomes a very dangerous lineup. One of the best. They were not too far off to begin with, so maybe this puts them in top 4 contention right away. I think the bigger surprise here, Tim, is hearing, we talked about teams that we thought were going to make changes, and we thought it would be a majority of them, right? Like that's not a shock that 90% of the teams will probably make changes to their starting lineup one way or the other. We did think 2 teams might be safe from that, right? We thought Dallas, that we would see 4 out of the 5 remain with the team, and that's pretty much confirmed, right? We have Crimsix, Hook, Illy, and Shotzi. They're staying together. Clayster was the oddball out there that unfortunately got the boot. I thought the other team that would also manage to find 4 out of the 5 to stick together would be their counter in the championship, and that would be FaZe. And it's looking like Priesta may be the odd man out here. Like it looks like they may not have 4 going into next roster, like in the next season. Priesta is rumored right now to potentially be in talks with Optic and making a move off of that lineup, and that would be, you can never say you didn't see it coming, but it's surprising that they might not be keeping 4 off of that roster to start together.
I wonder if that has more to do with Arcides becoming a free agent than Priesta. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, hey, we weren't planning on getting rid of someone, but I mean, look at these other guys that teams are dropping. If we can pick up one of these to improve, right? It's not necessarily that Priesta was doing bad, and he didn't do bad last year. Like, there wasn't one shining example where you could be like, that's why you guys
have a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you're losing. But if there's a chance to upgrade, I mean, I get it. It's kind of a shock. I'm more shocked that the Twins are splitting up again, right? Like,
seems like a bad move, right?
Like I feel like we've been there, done this, guys. Now, in fair, it seems like it was more Pristini not adjusting as well in Florida. I still haven't really even seen rumors on where Pristini might end up. Have you?
No. I mean, there haven't been. He had a tough end of the year. I think again he will find a home. Like I do think he'll find a home somewhere, maybe as the 5th man on the roster, possibly as a starter. But to see them not pushing to play together, like kind of speaks some volumes here, because that was kind of what all the huss and fuss was about.
Yeah, I don't really get it.
I mean, joining them.
And this is just from an outsider looking in, right? Maybe if you're talking to a pro, they're like, guys, they're really not that attached at the hip. But from an outsider's perspective, from our angle, it definitely looked like that was the case. I mean, Pristini went MIA with Florida for like a month or 2, and then all of a sudden was given on a silver platter, free, no charge needed, to Chicago to play with his brother. So now that you just see that not work out and they split up again, it's kind of like, okay, are we going to do this dance again? Like we just did this.
Now, Arcades to FaZe would make that a really deadly lineup, also, right? Like Arcades,
I mean,
been
that
one of
would
the best
be
premier players. Like
yeah.
that would be a very dangerous lineup going into next season. Again, I don't know if they necessarily need to make a change, but if that's the route that they're going to go, like not a bad one. And that probably brings us to Huntsman, right? Because if Arcades and Priester are leaving, that leaves an opening there. And to me, this would be a great pickup. Again, another rumor is what we think is going to happen. It's what we're hearing, but that would be Dashy from Optic, headed over to the Huntsman. He would join T2P and Scump and Formal. Joined one of the nominees for Player of the Year in Envoy. Like if Dashy goes back to his form of 2018, 2019, again, another contender right off the bat. Like this team would be very deadly. We saw what Dashy could do in a limited run there with Optic in that first round when Kenny was disconnecting. You know, Dashy came in and was kind of the hero for that particular game, but they didn't stick with him, right? They still took him out of the lineup and moved forward with their current guys. If Dashy is headed to Huntsman, I like the pickup. Like he knows them. He played with Scump previously when they were all on Optics lineup. So this would make for a good little reunion here. Like I see that being a positive change. If they're losing Arcades, doesn't mean that's a good thing that they're losing him. But if they're losing Arcades and they take Dashy, if this game is set up right and Dashy goes back to his old form, I don't think they're necessarily going to skip a beat with Dashy in that lineup.
No. I'm looking forward to. Like I said, I mean, we knew that roster mania is always crazy with COD, but the fact that they went from 5v5 to 4v4, and now you're seeing even roster moves on top of that, it's nuts. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these become official.
Next Sunday, we'll have a pretty good idea of where a lot of these landing spots are, right? The extension deadline is ending today. The free agency deadline or free agency opens up on the 14th. That'll put us, towards the end of next week. I believe that's next Monday, not tomorrow, but the following Monday. So we should have a pretty good idea by then of who's teaming up and who's getting together. Like a lot more leaks will come out, a lot more confirmations will happen, rumors will turn into confirmations. So I'm looking forward to the end of next week where we have a little bit more of an idea of what's happening, and then boom, the beta hits like a few weeks after that, and we'll really know who's playing with who.
Yep, definitely. All right, so there's that. Anything else with COD?
Nope, just waiting.
Pretty much
just waiting.
Just waiting. All right. Well, let's get into some e-news because we have a little bit to get to. Hope everyone enjoyed. Hope all the teams and players enjoyed a chance at being a top 5 number 1 spot in CSGO, because your time is quickly ending as Glaive has announced that he is returning to the Astralis starting roster. So good to see that.
Yeah, I think it's about time. He's they just 2-0'd FaZe here in ESL Pro League the other day, and that was with Glaive back on the roster. He actually had the highest plus minus in that matchup. People are asking who's the one out. Bubsky is the one that gets moved to the bench. S-Tag remains in the starting lineup. But in Glaive's return, they dominated FaZe. They 16-7 them first map, 16-5 next map, and looked really good. So, yeah, that's one more step to them coming back to the Astralis that we know. And I think it's a great sign that he comes in and top frags right off the bat. Like, can't ask for much more.
No. Henry G has officially announced his retirement to CSGO casting and esports in general after 150 events, 10 majors over 6 years. This might warrant a full-on conversation maybe down the line, but his reasoning was kind of eye-opening and a little sad in the sense of he pretty much was like, even as what like we look at as a top caster, he was still pretty much working like a newbie. Like it was just like it just wasn't worth the grind at the end of the day.
This is truly like a little bit of a devastating loss in terms of the talent community, right? There's people that you got to remember, just like we talked about Overwatch. So I want to be fair in saying that this is a little worrisome for Counter-Strike, because just how we talked about a bunch of Overwatch talent leaving at one time, we've now lost Moses, NA's top caster, and Henry G, arguably considered the best, if not one of the best, casters, play-by-play guys in Counter-Strike. We've seen both of them depart here recently. We've seen the cheating scandal. We've seen the bug scandal. Like,
on top of that, Anuj, you saw Pansy tweet out why she doesn't do as much CSGO, right? Not officially saying she's out of it, and I'm not saying Pansy's on the same level of Henry G, but still, you know me, I love Pansy. But she is basically saying, like, it's just a toxic scene.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's worrisome. Again, it's just somebody that you hate to see go, because Henry G's had an amazing career. We couldn't ask for much more. Like, he did give us 6 freaking years. He gave us some of the best moments in Counter-Strike. You know, you think of him at being at every big event. But it does, like, really suck to see him go, because he was really good. Like, I really enjoyed his casting and thought he was just had a good, like, moral compass for the game, and I enjoyed him. So I appreciate him. From TCR, we thank you for providing us with, like, several amazing moments in Counter-Strike. And yeah, it just sucks to see him go, because now I feel like we're seeing the dominoes fall a little bit here, and it's not, you know, not great, unfortunately.
Nope. So there's that. So stay hard to Henry G. Cloud9 has announced that they are making huge moves as they are doing a full-on roster rebuild. Now, they're going to play with the guys for now, but it's that whole awkward, like, hey, you're fired, but we still need you to work your 2 weeks type thing.
Like the optic situation when that was going down.
Yeah, like, you know, like, you're there for a job, and that's why you're doing it. But that's it.
It's obvious. It's obvious to me now. Jack, we know you're listening. You obviously listened to that last episode. You could sense the frustration in Tim's voice. You knew how he was feeling as a true diehard Cloud9 fan. This is the right move, okay? Don't second guess this. I know you're seeing a lot of people say, well, this was a good team. They were growing. No. It's been fun watching them. F that. This was the right move. This needed to happen. If you want to be a top-tier competitive Counter-Strike team, this wasn't the team that was going to take you there. And I think this gives a little bit of hope to see what they can do, because the first step to fixing your problem, Tim, is admitting that you have one. This was a big step in the right direction for Cloud9. So let's see what they do with it. Yep,
I agree. I'm excited. Like I said, from a Cloud9 fan, they've been so lackluster. Like, it's just, you knew that, like, there's a glass ceiling and they're just not breaking it. It's like a plexiglass ceiling with that roster.
Now, what if the next pickup is like, okay, we signed Chaos's full lineup?
You know, don't even joke, because you know that's what it's going to be. No, I'm not going to talk myself into it. No, I would still not be excited.
Chaos without Steel, obviously.
Yeah, Chaos without Steel, and they just broke the top 20. No, please, don't.
It bumps you up 4 spots, Tim. You go from 23 to 19.
And that's exactly how they got into the situation they're in now. They signed a roster that jumped up a couple spots. Everyone was like, oh my God, ATK, they're moving on up. And then nothing. Like, who said that was going to happen? Oh, me. I said that was going to happen. For Overwatch, the playoff quick update here. In the winter finals for the North American side, you have Philly versus San Francisco Shock. And in the losers bracket, still, you have Atlanta versus Florida, LA Valorant versus Washington. So, honestly, they've kind of been one-sided from what I've kept up with a little bit. But, so you've had that going. In league news, you had some of the LCS and LEC wrap up today. G2 ended up defeating Fnatic in their finals, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, did break record for the highest LCS match ever for views. So for 1 million concurrent viewers for the LCS finals, breaking the previous record of a number smaller than that. So
that's very true.
You know,
on the Valorant front, Tim.
Well, hold on.
This was some big stuff.
One last thing. And I do love it. And look, the only reason I don't keep up with League, you know this, but I do know if there's one thing in League I know, It's people hate TSM. I see people like Thorin, Monte Cristo, Richard Lewis, all of these guys on social media, people in our Discord. I'm looking at you, Joey. I know all of you hate TSM. And I feel like through that hate and my enjoyment of seeing them win and piss all those people off, they just continue to go. And they ended up winning the LCS. I absolutely love it. Because I know no one wants to see them win. No one.
Yeah, it's surprising that they carry that hate title, but I don't know if that's like their fan base is just massive, right? Like their following is like huge. But it's funny because we do see a lot of the negative stuff, especially on social media, because a lot of the big name individuals like to bash them a lot. So yeah, funny that they take the crown there, but good for them.
Valorant, go.
Yeah, in Valorant, big news. I actually put this down here as a yikes, Tim. We didn't do yikes today. I apologize, folks. We know it's Monday's show, but this could kind of hold that spot for you. Crashies and Food, but those are players for you, those of you that don't know. Valorant pros. Crashies and Food have both been released from T1's roster. Why would this be a yikes? Well, like their best player is out there playing like Rogue Company on stream for fun and not joining them in the practice room. So I think it's a little unfair that like this team never really had a chance to play with its full lineup and they're making a roster move. Is it the right move? It may or may not be, right? Like that's not necessarily where I'm going with this. I just think it's a tough spot to be put in when you're missing arguably one of your best players because he needs some time to himself to figure out his character pool. And so it's a little rough for these guys. Like, right? They're jobless.
I can't get over it. Like, you just got cut from a roster as your teammate has spending more time playing Fall Guys with Skadoodle. We're talking about Skadoodle here. And you're getting cut because you haven't been performing well in matches when he's not even playing in matches. It's amazing. It's almost like Skadoodle. It's like, he's just like, look, I know we're not going to win with this roster. I'm going to tap out until we get one that we can win, and then I'll show back up. Like, you guys know me. You're not going to cut me, but I'll come back.
This would have made a lot of sense to me if this next player we're about to talk about was the person that was signed to this roster to help complete T1's roster. The person we're talking about in question is somebody that's been talked about on this show several times.
Can I hit time out 1 second? You know what the Skadoodle thing reminds me of? Because I just watched The Last Dance. Actually, I'm still watching The Last Dance on Netflix for like
Rodman.
Yes. Skadoodle is taking a Rodman vacation right now. In the middle of the season, he's like, guys, I got to get out. And they're like, what do you mean you have to go? He's like, I got to get out.
Look, Rodman had a better excuse. He was at least going to Vegas to bang Carmen Electra. You know, Skadoodle's playing Fall Guys on stream. It's like a little unfortunate that that's what the break is for.
It's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it sucks for them. Again, I do think it would have made
It is rumored that Dazed is going to sign with them as well. I have
You think Dazed?
I've seen that rumor kicked around. Now, you know my opinion on Dazed. I would rather have 5 Food or Crashies on my team than 1 Dazed, just because the way he handled his return to CS.
Yeah,
I would never sign him because of that.
Yeah, like leaving mid-season and
after people fell on grenades for you to get back into CS. You finally
I agree with that. Like if he signed with them, am I intrigued? Yes, 100%. Sure. But I'm not really like sitting back there with my Go Days sign standing up in the air. I don't want to see the guy fail, but I do hate the way he departed CS and the way he kind of he got the movement behind him to get reinstated, finally had the ability to do so, and then quits on his team mid-season. It almost felt like he did it mid-match the way that happened.
Yeah. Yep.
The other name that would have made a lot of sense is the one we're going to talk about, and you can go ahead and introduce him, but this would have been the person I wanted to see on T1.
So, I mean, I feel like I'm repeating what we talked about last week. I don't even know if this is old news to us. People are acting like it's news, but I'm like, we definitely knew this. Steel signs officially with 100 Thieves. So
Yeah,
just yet again, another one that we slam dunk, home run. Like, that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, for people keeping track, now this gives 100 Thieves Hiko. This gives them Nitro. And this also now gives them Steel. I think they are definitely on the right path from where they were at, right? Like, this feels like a roster that there's some thought being put behind it. Where before, I really thought they didn't know what they were doing, right? Like, they had no clue how to build a roster, and they're like, hey, these guys were pro in esports, capital E hyphenated sports, like they deserve a shot. That's really what it felt like, that somebody did not know what they were doing.
Look, it would have made
like,
more
hey,
sense just to sign Craig as a water boy sitting behind boats in a PUBG match. Like,
oh shit, he played in Twitch Rivals. Get him on the roster. Like, get him on. Like, that's good enough. This feels like there's some thought being put behind it. I think they have an amazing core. I think they have the ability to, like, names that you brought up, potential of like Freakazoid. Daze is out there skeptical on whether he's going to be good in Valorant or not. I just don't know his dedication level. I would have to wait and see there. But I think there's plenty of names that are still potentially available. I think Android, if I'm not mistaken, is still out there looking for a team. I don't know if he's signed with anybody, but there are names that are available. I think there could potentially be more moving from CS still to be determined, especially when you see a lineup like that. Like, how appealing, Tim, does that lineup look to go join if you are considering making the move to Valorant?
I mean, if they're calling, you're picking up 100%.
For sure.
I don't know at what level that they're looking for, but you're absolutely right. There are still plenty of good talent out there from the Counter-Strike side that's willing to move over or have already announced that they're moving over to Valorant that I think could easily be signed, and at least to try out, right? I mean, there's been some guys where it's like I haven't even seen, like Freakazoid, I haven't even seen trying out on teams for some of these tournaments.
ACU is another guy that comes to mind. Like, he's been streaming a lot. He's been playing the game a lot. I don't know if he wants to go professional or not, but if he did, like, that's a main opera right there that could make a lot of sense. So, like, there's names out there that I think will be appealing to 100 Thieves. I think once that roster is formed, that will be a team that competes for top NA, like, right off the bat.
Yep. In other news, Nintendo has announced with their Mario 35-year anniversary. Anyways, Mario's having a birthday. And so they've announced a slate of new games coming out. Why are we bringing up Mario's birthday on the show, you ask? Because they have announced a brand new Mario Battle Royale game. Much like the Tetris 99, it's like you're going through a Mario level and it's a race and you can affect other people's games with it. It looks chaotic. It looks fun. I'll probably play it once, but it's there.
Yeah, no, it does looks cool. That's all I can say about it. I don't know how hard I'm going to grind the game. I have to get my Switch back from my sister in order to even do that. It looks cool, though. Like, it's a neat concept. It's something fun. And then they're also releasing some other titles to go along with it, right? So there's quite a bit coming out from that side.
And in what would have been my yikes of the week is ESPN is getting called out for plagiarism, go figure, for copying Olivia May's Good Morning Esports theme. So, of course, she has a show called Good Morning Esports where they talk league and things like that. ESPN had just announced Good Morning Worlds, which is their kind of good morning talk show for League of Legends. It does look very similar. To
be fair, Olivia Mays is a parody of Good Morning America.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's where she pulled it from. Now, that makes it funny the first time around. This is like copying somebody's homework who just copied the other person's homework.
And let me tell you this too, this fun fact that when I was reading because people were like, look, you're bitching about them for stealing your idea when you stole an idea. Like, come on, that's how this business works. Except for all of our ideas are super original on this show.
100%.
Clutch or Kick, definitely new concept. Valorant, no one's ever done a Valorant topic called Valorant or play on that. So very original. This is where Olivia has a case, though, at least of being pissed off. I don't know in the court of law, right? But being pissed off, absolutely. She pitched this idea to ESPN. They invited her on their League of Legends as a guest host to do like work and like butter her up and get ideas from her. Never called her back. Haven't invited her to be on a guest. And then all of a sudden she sees this pop up and goes, that was my idea that I gave to you guys to do a show with me. And you never got me to do it. And now you're getting your own guys to do that show. First off, grade A ESPN move right there. Like that's just what ESPN does. And second off, been there, Olivia. Been there. So
yeah, it's unfortunate. And with ESPN, like that's a whole nother talking point that probably leads me into the salt mine. So I probably need to like back off a little bit of it. But I do like, I mean, with ESPN, look, they're lucky they have that branding behind them. Okay, let's just put it that way. To me, that they're very lucky that is the branding behind them, because that's what gets them 90% of the acts. Not to say like people like Jacob Wolf and all that are not good, but trust me, you're very lucky to have that branding behind you.
Yeah.
None of their content feels original to me.
No, definitely not. Corey in Twitch chat. Corey, what's up? Actually, it makes a good thing, saying we should do something called the layman's corner, where we can talk things in layman sense so he can understand it. Not a bad idea for listeners who might be new to esports or don't know what we're talking about. So hit us up on Twitter or Discord with things that went over your head, and maybe we'll follow up in a future episode with a layman's corner and break it down in a more traditional sense or whatnot. So there's that. E-News is done. The show is done. Thank you so much, everyone who stopped and stuck around in Twitch chat. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you to our guest, Craig. Again, at Craig Skits with a Z at the end. Go ahead and follow him on Twitter. Let him know you loved him on the show. We'll have him back on sometime. Who knows? Sure won't be the last time he comes on the show and vice versa. Thank you to everyone who listened on the podcast, whether you skipped around and listened to the whole darn thing. Love you all the same. We will be back. So tomorrow's Monday. We have Monday off. Wednesday.
Happy Labor Day, everyone.
Happy Labor Day. Everyone have a good, safe holiday. It's my son's birthday tomorrow as well. So enjoy the day off for his birthday. We will be back Wednesday. My son's balloon just like floated down from that. Terrified me. Saw the corner of my eye, this balloon like float into the room. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Get back on track. Happy Labor Day. We'll be back Wednesday night, probably for a little shorter episode since this one was so long. Talk some esports, got some Overwatch League playoff to get to. Sure, Counter-Strike is every day. It seems like rocks are being overturned, so we'll do that as well. But for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya. Perfect.
Beautiful.
It's like I'm looking over here. It's like out of the corner of my eye. I see like the balloon, like at the helium are running out. So it's like the balloon just slowly like fell in front of my door. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Hey, thanks everyone in chat for sticking around.
I'm glad you guys missed the Stars game to stay with us. I appreciate that.
It was just a 1-0 game.
Yeah, I had a tough time like glancing over. When you actually said it was done, I was like, oh shit. Like there was like 10 minutes still left when I was kind of glancing. So it was good to know that they pulled it off.
You want to know what I was watching at the start of the show? NASCAR. I forgot the Stars were even playing today. Here's the shitty thing with being a cord cutter. And I mean, I know I could do like an illegal stream, which I do 99% of the time. But the fact that I can't watch the Stars on like official streams because they're local. So I get the blacklist stuff, you know? Like it's
YouTube TV is what we cut the cord for. And
that doesn't black out? YouTube TV doesn't black it out?
No. Yeah, YouTube TV does not.
The Dallas Stars. It's the Dallas hockey team. And also, Obi, I saw your comment, but we changed topics. There wasn't a good way to fit it in. You are correct. Rocket League, you could say, was an indie game that did break out into the scene very well. Also helped that it came out free to play on the PlayStation Plus free to play game that month, much like Fall Guys. Like, I think that's a good move. Like, if you're an indie game, make your game free to play on PlayStation Plus, because if you have PlayStation Plus, everyone downloads those games just because they're free.
And it's like, I mean, obviously they made a good game too.
But it was also,
like
yeah. I mean, it was around first, right? Like it had, what was the original one called? Do you remember?
The original Rocket League?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't called Rocket League?
No, it's the same concept by like a super indie developer, and then Psychonauts picked it up and redid it to what we know now.
The thing that's hard for indie developers in my mind, Tim, is like Rocket League felt like an original idea. So I know you're saying it was a knockoff of another game, but in the sense, it felt original.
It wasn't a knockoff.
Right?
It was they
enhanced
built on it.
Whatever. They took it and made it better, but still like an original idea in that sense. The indie developers that have a tough time are the indie developers that are trying to make a 5v5 strategy shooter, or the indie developers that are trying to make a BR to compete with the modern warfares of the world. Like, if you're going to be an indie developer and you want to get into esports, you better be original.
Yeah, that's what it was. So the original Rocket League was called Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Powered Battle Cars.
And you should also have a good name. Would be the next thing, right? Like, that would be
battle
topic.
I think for short it was called Battle Cars is what it was. Like the Octane car in Rocket League was like the original. When it came out, like everyone was like, "Oh, he was an old Battle Cars pro," and so that's what people knew. But that's besides the point. I agree. Like for anyone, and like we didn't have to break it down on the thing, but like in like Diabolical, I don't give a fuck what any of these talking heads tell you on Twitter. Don't listen to Slasher. Don't listen to Sir Scoots. Don't listen to all these guys who are saying this is going to revive Puckett. He's even on board. Revive the arena shooter. Apart from features, which I agree it has like the cool practice mode and things like that, it is a copy and paste Quake. Like Quake didn't die. Arena shooters died. So like you could still go and play Quake. It's there. The servers are up. Go play. If you don't like Quake Champions, go play Quake Live. Go play Quake, the original, like those servers are still up for multiplayer. They never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Like all
agree.
of a sudden, Diabolical
that genre is not a genre that's popular right now. Could it make a revival? Maybe at some point. Could this be it? Like, I guess it could be, but I truly don't believe that the arena shooter is back. Like, I just don't think it's I just don't think it's the right time.
Rocket League was an indie game that made it.
I would be more excited, honestly.
Like I could list
if you told me arena shooters were coming back and it was Unreal.
Or if they if Quake was like, hey, we're ditching Quake Champions and we're going back to like just no. But let's be after I've played Quake Champions and after I played it, the champions honestly don't make that big a deal. Like even if you watch the pros, half the pros use the default generic one that you start with anyways. So they don't use the whole fancy shit ones. They just, they use the raw shooting ones. But yeah, like Rocket League made it as an indie game, but I can name you 1,000 other indie games, that didn't. So, I mean, and even, I know we talked about on the show, like Apex, right? That's not from an indie developer, but it was another BR that tried to break the scene. And as far as on an esports level, is it a dead game? I would say yes. On an esports scale, Apex is a dead game.
Yeah, Apex didn't take advantage of the situation they had because I think they had that enormous player base right off the bat, right? Like every day we were seeing them break records and they just weren't able to capitalize on it like I think they should have, like, or that they had the ability to do. Like they were missing some key ingredient there to take it to the next level, whether that was just waiting too long to try and get it started. But yeah, it was probably the closest BR to being like a true competitive shooter,
Yeah.
like a competitive esports, I should say.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is true. So
Closest
Radical
to one.
Heights, part of the failure is because the counterpart of the other company's game, Lawbreakers, was a bust. Don't get me started on Lawbreakers. I absolutely loved Lawbreakers. I was like one of the 10 people who played the beta, bought it day one. It was like $30. I even got like the collector's edition because I enjoyed it so much, which, Nuge, you know me, I never buy the collector's edition for shit. I'm like, all right, sure, I'll buy it. I loved it. It was like, I'm not kidding. You had maybe 48 hours to play it.
yeah,
And
it was really dead very quick.
dead, and no one played it. I mean, I would sit there and it's like, I'm looking for 15 minutes to find a room in any game mode. It was dead faster than anything. And it was a fun game. That one, I think, was more so like, I don't know why people do this, but from open beta to the game, they actually change it. Like they just changed the way the game like worked. And so I think it kind of rubbed people the wrong way. And I don't know. It was a fun game. They had zero. I don't know. They fucked up. They should have done free to play. That was the issue with Lawbreakers, is they had all the features of a free to play game, but you also had to pay for it. It should have been free to play.
I played the beta and I thought it was okay, but yeah, I didn't want to invest the $30 there.
No. If it were free to play, I think it would still be around today and it would be alive. I don't know successful, but as far as like fast pace, Unreal style shooting, it would have filled that gap, and I think it would have made for exciting esports. But there's people weren't going to spend $30 on it. It just wasn't. You can't get people to spend $30 on an indie game that revolves only on its multiplayer and esports. Like if that's all your game has to offer, like Diabolical. If Diabolical was $20, $50, even $10, you wouldn't get it. Because it's...
Yeah, it'd be dead at launch almost.
Yeah. The only reason Diabolical even has a chance right now is because the dude who made it is friends with everyone in esports, and it's free to play.
Free to play is big. Like that helps. Like there will be a player base for the game.
Did I play
because
Battleborn?
It's free to play.
Mm-hmm. Did I play Battleborn? So let me Google it so I know which one you're talking about. Yes. So what's the other one on Steam? Battle something. I played that game. Dude, I play every fucking game out there, okay? I'm not kidding you, and I have a list on Steam of just games that have like 15 hours on and then died.
The hell is Battleborn?
Battleborn came out, so it was a 2K game. It came out right around the same time Overwatch did. So when they came out, it was what is that other game I'm thinking of? It was like a arena fighting game. So Battleborn came out right around the same time as Overwatch did. And so it was kind of like a big debate of what was going to succeed more, Overwatch or Battleborn. Battleborn, like Obi said in chat, was an FPS MOBA. Like you had creeps, you had the towers, and you fought for those towers. You want to know how much of a fucking expert I am in it? In the betas, first off, I fucking hated Overwatch when I first played it. Despised it. I really had a lot of fun in Battleborn. And I was like, Battleborn is the better game, but it's not going to succeed because it's made by 2K and not Blizzard. So when they both came out, I went to Overwatch just because I knew Battleborn wasn't going to survive. Even though it was, in my opinion, at launch anyways, and probably still now, was a more intriguing game to me than Overwatch.
Was it kind of like Smite then?
Yeah, more FPS than it was.
Okay.
Smite
was like third person, but like a MOBA. It was a third-person MOBA.
Yeah, like
basically.
over shoulder.
Yeah. But you were actually shooting guns though in Battleborn.
You were shooting guns, and yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed Battleborn, but it was another one where right out the gate it didn't do well, so it lost all developer support, and I think like within the first year the servers died. So, like they killed like 2K straight up killed the servers. I don't even think you can play it.
Seeing Battleborn's release trailer, their launch trailer, a lot of the messages on here is to be like this one first top comment. To be honest, this is a really good game. Released at a very, very bad time. Like, why on earth would you release this game at the same time as Overwatch? Why?
Yep. It released on the same day as Overwatch. And everyone, like I just said, was like, well, bro, if you're going to make me pick, even though I still think Battleborn was the better game, it just wasn't as hyped as Overwatch. And it died. I'm looking for this other game that I have on Steam that I thought was going to be a lot more popular than what it... Oh, Battle Right on Steam.
Yeah.
So that was another one where I paid for it and then it went free to play, which isn't that just a kick in the nuts when you pay for a game and it goes free to play?
It's like, give me something good.
Yeah,
I know that's why like Donut and all them hated Fortnite for that reason, is because they paid for Save the World.
And all they got was a fucking umbrella. Which, you know what? I never blamed Donut or TJ not playing Fortnite because of that. You know, they're like, no, I paid for Save the World. I liked Save the World. All they gave me was paying for it was an umbrella to jump into the battle. Like, they gave them stuff for Battle Royale, and they were like, no.
Which that account might sell for something now if you have a umbrella that was only given to original buyers of Save the World.
True. Battle Right on Steam, I thought was going to be another better game, but it just wasn't.
What about Paladins, Tim?
I've played Paladins, and I remember some people in our group of friends were like, I think Paladins is better than Overwatch. Like, just stop. It's like a copy and paste, but not. Paladins is like when you try to copy your friend's homework, but purposely fuck up some of the answers so the teacher doesn't know. So you get a slightly worse grade, but it's still better than doing the work yourself.
Yeah.
That's what Paladins was. It was a slightly shittier version of Overwatch. But like I said, we played Diabolical this weekend. We had fun. But I think I did look, Quake Champions does have a 2v2 mode. I think I'd rather go play Quake Champions. I'd rather just go play Quake. That's just...
I don't know if, again, maybe this is like probably just a personal thing. It's just, I just don't care for the arena shooter world. It's not my thing anymore.
Yeah.
I've moved on. I did at one point. I enjoyed it.
I still have a lot of fun with it, Like I had, like when we were doing that rocket mode in Diabolical, like I got into it.
Yeah.
Like I was fucking...
That mode in particular was fun.
Right.
But that's not how the game would be played at a hyper competitive level.
And I told Anuj this. Again, my fear with Diabolical, all it takes is Bethesda to be like, all right, we're not playing this game anymore. Fucking $1 million tournament for Quake, and everyone's going to fucking leave Diabolical. My issue with Diabolical is I need to feel like a fucking badass playing an arena shooter. It's hardcore. It's in your face. I need to feel like a badass. A little chubby ass robot running around, and when you get shot or shoot, you hear like a woohoo, woo, 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 like
Mario sounds.
Not it. Not like, and the fact that they're like, this game took 8 years in development. 8 years? It took you 8 years to reskin Quake? Like,
and eggs is what we got?
Yeah, like
8 years and you couldn't build an avatar that looked cool to play with?
Yeah, I don't even mind that it's like the graphic style. Some people are like, well, I don't like the graphics.
No, graphic style's fine. It's the eggs that bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see, though. Could be wrong.
Probably that game, Corey. because it was in like closed beta, and we got in and played it for like a weekend. But
What are you talking about?
he said, Corey asked, was it the game that we play at your house for like 2 minutes? Diabolical.
Oh,
Probably.
yeah.
It would have been months ago. It would have been a while ago, but that's my issue with it. It's just like it's not appealing to me. I understand, like, is it a good game? Yeah, I'm not gonna shit on the game. It's a good game. But it's also a copy and paste job and a reskin of Quake. So if I like Quake, so of course I'm gonna like Diabolical. But I'd rather just go play Quake. That's my official review on Diabolical. Diabolical. I'd rather be playing Quake.
I wish Quake was better.
I wish Quake was more popular. That's what I wish. But, all right, bros. I'm going to kill the stream so we can edit the stuff, take care of the babies, and, I don't know, might play some Valorant or something here. I don't know. Just depends. What are you doing?
Gonna go see what the wife's doing real quick, and then I'll probably hop back on.
All right.
I'll get back on one way or the other. I just need to make sure everyone's out.
Corey, do you have Modern Warfare still installed in it?
I do. We were playing it earlier today.
Really? You know what? I might have reinstalled it. Let me pull it up and see. Did I reinstall it? No, I didn't.
It'll only take you a couple days if you start now.
Oh, you can pre-purchase Cold War.
Huh?
You can pre-purchase Cold War now.
Yeah, it's been up there since the first launch trailer came.
Oh, God, tells you how long it's been since I opened up my BattleNet.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see. I just want to see the multiplayer reveal, just to I don't want to give them my money until I at least see it. But they'll get my money.
I mean,
way.
you're gonna get
They're
it.
They're gonna get my money either way. But I do want to just be like, okay, I'm waiting for this before I give them my $60 because they'll get it either way.
Yep. All right, homies. Later in chat. We'll see ya.
God bless. Thanks, guys.